Hello everyone, this is Gene from NYC again, and I have a special guest with me, although I'm not sure he's coming up great on camera, but it's my Raphel plushie from work. I got this a few years ago. The local 7-Eleven was selling them. I picked up a Donatello for my brother because he was always the more peaceful one among us in the family. I was always the rough and tumble tomboy, and I got Raphel because Raphel is cool but rude. So, I wanted to make a video with this plushie today. Now, this is going to be a little different than my usual videos in that this is going to be a comic review. Now, you'll be wondering, Gene, if you're doing a comic review, why are you recording a plushie of a Ninja Turtle, even if he is the best Ninja Turtle? Why are you recording a plushie of a Ninja Turtle instead of showing a comic book? The answer is simple. I read the comic online. I did not purchase the comic digitally or a physical copy. Why? Because it's the comic itself is the Life of Captain Marvel, issue 5, the final one of that miniseries. And it is so bad that I refuse to purchase it. I am not going to spend money on something that is poor quality. I just refuse to do it. So I read it. I'm going to do my best to review it, to recall it, to rant about it. Excuse me, just had a drink. And I'm going to do my best to tell you guys what I think about it. But yeah, I'm not purchasing it. And it's not a recommend. It is not a recommend in the least. I think if you do want to check it out for yourself, you know, if you want to take anything I say and compare it to the comic itself, read it online. I know that some people have feelings, you know, have issues about, you know, people who read comics online but who won't purchase them. I respect people's opinions on that, and if my reviewing a comic in this way without purchasing it is offensive to you, I respect that, but I'm not spending my money on a poor product, especially when I, over a year ago, decided to boycott the mainstream comics industry because of their across-the-board poor product and even poorer treatment of the fans, especially with the way they interact with fans on Twitter and whatnot. So I'm not going to give the industry my money. Not even for stuff I like the Brian Reed run of Miss Marvel from the mid-2000s or Claremont anything from the 80s. I'm not even purchasing that stuff because I refuse to give the industry money. So that's just my personal stance and the reason why, again, there's a plushy turtle in the place of a trash comic book. So again, if that bothers you, look it up yourself. There are other channels, Diversity or Comics Matter, as he calls himself now, formerly Diversity in Comics. There's Just Some Guy, there's Yellow Flash, I Love Comics, Captain Frugal, and many others who, Mim Headroom was one of my favorites. I don't want to forget him, and plenty of others that review comics and will, you know, show the image of the comic because they have purchased it in one form or another. I am not doing that, at least not at present. I have no intention at this time to break my vow to not purchase mainstream comics until the industry as a whole and the behavior of the so-called professionals improves. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Again, if that bugs you, I respect that, but you'll have to find someone else then, because this is the way, these are my reviews, and this is how I do them, at least at present. So that's all I got to say about that. I would also like to thank my newest subscriber. I believe the name is Shippo, the Shiba, I'm going to say Shiba Inu or Ainu. So welcome. I hope you're enjoying my videos. And given your name, I'm assuming you're an Inuyasha fan. You and my brother would have much in common. I wasn't particularly a big fan of the series, though I will admit I do have a certain affection for Sesshomaru-sama, Fluffy-sama. Anyway, on now to the review itself. Again, I will be recalling this from the top of my head. I read it earlier today at work. I thought about making a video at work, but I don't know, something just said don't. And I listened to my instincts, so I decided to just grab my plushie and just do the review here, as I always do. In case you're wondering, RJ's currently enjoying his dinner. Chicken. He's just like me. He loves his chicken. We were meant to be. Anyhow, so on to the review itself. So, the issue that I read was The Life of Captain Marvel. It's issue 5, to my knowledge, the final issue in what suddenly became a mini-series. I get the feeling that it was cut off early, and they're just saying it's a mini-series, or was always intended to be a mini-series, just to save face. That is the impression that I get. I don't think it was intended initially to be a mini-series. I think that's just the explanation that they're giving to justify, shutting the story down and rebooting Captain Marvel again. This has got to be the 5th or 6th time by this point, ever since 2011, 2012, when Kelly Sue DeConnick got her hands on the character and ruined her. It's been a hard road if you're a Carol Danvers fan, and these newest stories don't help. Anyhow, so the story starts out with the summary page, which is not terrible, but there's a part of the summary page where it talks about the current storyline, and here's the thing that frustrates me about this particular issue and this mini-series that Margaret Stohl, or Stahl, I think it's Stohl, was writing all this time. It doesn't know what it wants to be as a story. It starts off one way, and then it just veers into something else. Okay, the summary page explains that this was at first a story about Carol and her father. If you've ever seen reviews about the first, I think, 2 issues of the Life of Captain Marvel, I should say, that was established, right? Carol's difficult history with her father. It kind of hinted that her father might be a abuser of children and stuff like that. And it was basically trying to lay the blame for Carol's deep-seated anger issues at her father's feet. And the summary page pretty much confirms that by saying that on Father's Day, Carol had a panic attack and all this other stuff. First of all, if you want to show a hero that is struggling, right, that is reaching the end of their rope, you can do that. I have no issue with that. But you don't give them something like a panic attack. And here's the reason why. Now, I'm not saying what I'm about to say is not something that I personally agree with. I'm just describing how things are portrayed in media. In media, right? Someone who has a panic attack, or someone who suffers from asthma, for example, right? They're typically shown to be very frail people. Physically frail people. That's the common archetype or stereotype, however you want to call it, right? Someone's having a panic attack, they can't breathe, right? Or someone's having an asthma attack. Typically, they're shown as being very physically frail and weak. That was never, ever, 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 ever Carol Danvers. She was never a physically weak person. Now, you want to put mentally weak. There's an argument for that, given that she fell into alcoholism and had various other issues over the many decades that she has existed as a character. There's an argument there for emotionally weak or emotionally frail, but not physically. You don't give a character that is physically powerful, or at least supposed to be physically powerful and imposing, a weakness or a medical condition like a panic attack. It just makes them look weak. It doesn't work. The skinny nerdy scientist has the panic attack. not, the big, strong, powerful Kree warrior that this version of Captain Marvel keeps trying to establish that she is, yet they keep getting it wrong. So there's my first issue. The second issue is actually a positive and a negative. So let me start with the positive. This summary in this story retcons the origin of Carol's abilities. Instead of being hit with a Psyche Megatron ray or whatever, like she was in her original continuity, it's now that she's always been part Kree and just didn't know it. Now, while, in my personal opinion, this opens up a whole bag of worms, a whole can of worms, like, what about the other two kids? Why is it that the sons have never displayed superpowers? Carol's mother had 3 children, a daughter, 2 sons. Why is it that only Carol has the superpowers? Why haven't her sons displayed any superpowers or any just enhanced human abilities? Right? Why didn't Carol, when she was younger, when she was a child, show enhanced physical abilities? I mean, even in Superman, in the comics and in TV shows, right, his abilities were always hinted at, because of the fact that he could run faster, or he was just naturally physically stronger than he should be at a certain age, like when he was a young boy or when he was a teenager. Right? I remember even in the TV show Smallville, years and years and years and years ago, that in the beginning of that series, right, like, I think Jonathan Kent, Clark's father, told him that he couldn't play sports, and, Clark didn't understand why, because he still thought he was a normal boy. So he didn't understand, because he didn't know what he was yet, why he wasn't allowed to play sports, right? That was always hinting at the fact that he had supernatural abilities that were well beyond what any human could do. There's no hint of that in the Captain Marvel miniseries, at least from what I've seen and read and seen reviews of. That, to my knowledge, hasn't been addressed. Maybe it was in an issue that I didn't see, but from the 5 issues that I know about, there was never any flashback or explanation as to why Carol's abilities never manifested earlier or anything else. Again, I think the whole she's really half Kree reveal is a good idea in theory, because it's much simpler to explain the origin of her powers. But again, it's one of those things where you still need to flesh it out some, and you need to address the fact of why don't the other 2 sons have superpowers? Why are they normal and Carol is not? That is never explained, or if it was, I missed it. Right? So there's that. The second issue, so that was the positive and the negative. The second issue I have with this story is that, although it starts out being a father tale, right? Carol's tense relationship with her father and how she's dealing with the anger and bitterness that she feels toward him, it becomes a mother story, right? It becomes a mother-daughter bonding story. First of all, take it from a daughter. Relationships with the moms is not that easy. Okay, even if you have a healthy relationship with your mother, if you're a woman, you know that relationship is not all fun and lovey-dovey all the time as it's portrayed in this comic. Okay, Carol and her mother get along too damn well in this comic. Mother-daughter relationships are tense. Okay, because mom always treats you like a little kid, and she never acknowledges the fact that you're a grown woman. Just saying. Like, if you've ever seen Gargoyles, remember the Gargoyles episode? If you've seen it. I don't know how many people listening to this are familiar with the show, but there was an episode of Gargoyles where Elisa runs into her mother again in Africa. And the majority of that episode is about showing, the tenseness in the relationship between Elisa and her mother. And Elisa and her mom get along, but again, Elisa's mother treats her like a little kid. Elisa doesn't like it, so she acts like a teenager, right? Like a moody teenager. I don't need you to look after me, Mom, and that whole thing. And it highlights how similar they are to each other. That's the point of the episode. But it also is a very good depiction of what even a healthy mother-daughter relationship can be like. Yet in this comic, Carol and her mom are just, always a team, always working together. It's annoying, and it's untrue. Maybe I'm just being biased, but that's how I see it. Also, I think from a story perspective, having Carol's abilities be originated from her mother is revealed, I think in issue 3, to be the Kree parent, to be the Kree warrior. No. That was the wrong path to go down, and the reason I believe this was the wrong path to go down is because of the fact that, again, the issue Carol has is not with her mother, it's with her father. Right? Had the abilities originated with the father, had it been revealed that the father is Kree, then you could have, Margaret Stoll could have built a story about a woman coming to peace with her past and with her relationship with her father. Even in the original continuity, in the original background, Carol had this very tense relationship with her father, even before the rest of her family life went to hell because she lost her emotional connection to her past. Even prior to that, when her family life was healthy in the original backstory, she always had this sour relationship with her father, and had her abilities originated with him. Had he been the Kree warrior, it would have forced her to look inside herself and come to peace with the fact that the very thing that makes her a superhero, the very thing that allows her to fly up in the sky and to fly into space and to defend Earth or whatever it is that she does in today's comics, I don't even know because she isn't a hero anymore. But the very parent that gave her her powers is also the parent that hurt her and broke her heart, right? By neglecting her, by, being at odds with her, by being distant, by being sexist, by not paying for her education. And again, if you make that their connection, their shared gift and burden, it makes for a better story. That she now has to, in a way, I wouldn't say love, but again, she has to come to try to understand this person that she's been at odds with for so long. I think that would have been a much better story than to, again, this whole, Mom and I get along great, and Mom's displacing my powers thing. It just writes the dad out. And that is something that really frustrates me. It really does. Don't write the father out. Don't. It just frustrates me to high heaven. Comic writers, can we please stop demonizing men to build up women? It doesn't work. Just as men vilifying women doesn't build up men, women vilifying dudes doesn't build up women. We need each other. Demonizing each other doesn't work. It's like the song Savages. From Pocahontas, we haven't seen the film. If we keep painting each other as the demon, as the devil, as the evil one, we will never come to peace. Can we stop? Please, I beg of you. Can we stop? Can we start reading about heroes, male and female, again? Can we start reading about good people, male and female, again? Just saying. Rant done. At least that part of it. So, that's my huge, overly long rant on the, just the summary page, but this stuff irks me. So, the book moves on. The story is about, basically, the trial of Carol's mom. To sum it up, when Carol was looking through her dad's stuff because she suddenly became suicidal when she found out that her father had written love letters to another woman. I think that was issue 3 when she found that out, which makes no sense to me. I understand the mother being suicidal. I could even understand Carol being suicidal if she were a teenager, but she's got to be in her mid-30s. Shocked, I can understand. Upset, angry, I can understand. Suicidal, I don't. But anyway, so now Basically, the Kree have sent this enforcer. They call it a cleaner with a K. They're doing the whole Mortal Kombat thing where everything with a C is spelled with a K instead. Marvel, just because it works for NetherRealm Studios doesn't mean it's going to work for your comics. Anyway, so this cleaner character, and that's the only thing that this person is, this Kree robot warrior thing is known as a cleaner with a K. The best way I can describe the way this cleaner character looks is take Mystique. Take Mystique's clothes off before you start grinning. Now, take naked Mystique and give her the body of a Miss Olympia competitor. Right? You know the female weightlifters? Imagine that. And that is basically what this Kree cleaner character that has come for Carol's mother looks like. So it's just weird, and I don't understand why this character needed to look like Mystique. I know that there's been Blue Kree. That's not the issue, but I don't understand why the artist, who I think is Carlos Pacheco, decided that this particular character needed to look like a super buff version of Mystique. It honestly just looks like a naked Mystique on steroids, competing in a nude bodybuilding competition. It doesn't make any sense to me in the least. More importantly, why is it that this character is allowed to have a muscular, powerful form, but Carol, who for decades, back when she was Miss Marvel, was, I wouldn't say similarly drawn, because she was always drawn to look like a bombshell. If you've never seen Carol as Miss Marvel, the best way I can describe her is, think of Sable from the WWF. Just make her a little thicker. Like give her the thickness of, say, like maybe a Natty Neidhart or what's her name, Beth Phoenix, but then make her look like Sable. And that was basically Carol Danvers. So why is she allowed Carol Danvers as Miss Marvel, I should say? So why is she allowed? Sorry, why did Carol lose that, blonde bombshell muscle babe look in, 2011 or 2012, and given this slim down, more runner-esque or athletic look? I would say more like a runner, or maybe like a dancer who does Pilates, which again, as a form in and of itself isn't bad, but it doesn't fit Carol Danvers. At least in my estimation, it doesn't. But anyhow, why was she given this very slim down form, but this Kree enforcer can look like a super muscular Mystique? Why? Why does Carol lose her muscle, but the female villain in this story gets to be all muscular? It seems unfair in my opinion. In my completely very biased opinion, it seems terribly, terribly, terribly unfair that the character who was known for great physical strength and great destructive power has to look like a slim runner, while the very, very enemy trying to kill her gets to look like, again, a female, Miss Olympia competitor. But that's just me. So this Kree cleaner person thing, Kree, has come basically headhunting. It's looking for Carol's mom. The Kree apparently declared that Marielle, which is Carol's mother's Kree name, Marielle. Her human name is Marie. Her Kree name is Marielle now. Apparently, they decided decades ago at some point that she was marked for death, specifically high treason, because she left the Kree to start a family. Now, I don't claim to be the biggest expert on the Kree, but given that Captain Marvel, basically eventually abandoned the Kree, left the Kree, and came to Earth, and they didn't try to kill him, right? I know there were Kree characters that tried to kill him, like Jan Rog and whatnot, but those are because those characters had personal issues with him. To my knowledge, the Kree Empire did not put a hit out on the man. They exiled him to to my knowledge. And I think the whole thing is that, like, when he got cancer, there was no cure they could find, because I think the only person who may have been able to cure him was a Kree, but either that character or the Kree government said no, he's exiled, he left us, so we're not going to help him. I think that's what happened, or something similar to that. I would have to brush up. Again, this is just off the top of my head. So, but still, he wasn't, again, they didn't put a hit out on Marvel, to my understanding. So why in the world would they put a hit out on Carol's mother? More importantly, why is it that the only thing that was apparently stopping this Kree enforcer character, this cleaner, from finding her all this time was that this beacon that was apparently left with, again, Carol's father's items. This beacon was hidden among all that. The only reason that this Kree character never came until now is because Carol didn't activate this, and it was never activated until Carol accidentally activated it in an earlier issue. So you're telling me that the Kree, this empire, who are world conquerors, who fight with the Skrulls, who are violent warriors, they're gonna say that someone's marked for death, right? This Marielle has committed high treason because she abandoned the Kree, went to Earth, settled down, started a family. She's committed high treason. They're going to say that the punishment is death, but they're not going to send anybody over the years to try and kill her. They're not going to scan Earth every few years or once a decade trying to find out how many Kree are on Earth and how many Kree, meet this particular energy structure to find out where Marielle, who is again marked for death, is. The Kree Queen basically put a hit out. I mean, seriously, not to get biblical, but when Queen Jezebel put a hit out on one of the prophets in, I forget which part of the Bible it's in, but it's in the earlier parts, definitely in the Old Testament. I think it's Elijah, I think. Queen Jezebel puts a hit out on him after he has this miracle and several false prophets are killed and whatnot. She hears about it and she basically swears that on my life I will have this prophet killed. Elijah ran. You know why? Because he knew that she meant every word and that she was going to have people looking for him to kill him. So if a human queen with an axe to grind because her prophets have been killed is willing to, again, send out people to find the man who killed the prophets and have him killed, you're telling me that a alien queen from a warrior race that has tried to take over Earth, invade Earth, has fought with the Skrulls and all this stuff, isn't going to send people to go kill this one woman? And the only time this ever happens, that this woman's life is ever put in danger, or her family's life is ever put in danger, from, again, the interstellar kingdom that now wants her dead, right? The only time her life is put in danger is when her adult daughter accidentally finds this stupid beacon thing and accidentally activates it. This makes no sense. I'm going to repeat that. This makes no sense at all. This is a poor story. This is one of those stories where I ask more questions than are answered. And there's no sixth issue that's coming out that's going to answer the questions I'm asking. Why didn't Margaret Stoll think this through? I do not understand. I don't understand at all. It's annoying. It is frustrating. So anyway, so they're fighting, right? So this Kree cleaner monster thing, I've already repeated myself. I'm just trying to get back to my last point. This is the thing when you're doing things off the cuff. And once you get sidetracked, you gotta sort of rewind and then figure out where to go. So, it's coming for her mother, right? It's fighting. It's now this Kree thing is fighting both Carol and her mom. And in case you're wondering, Carol's Kree name now is now Kar-El. No, I am not joking. Her Kree name is Kar-El. And both she and her mother refer to each other as Mariel and Kar-El, not once or twice, but multiple times in this story. Again, Kree names that in Carol's case she just discovered, and I would say in her mother's case that she just rediscovered, and they're using them constantly to refer to each other. You would think that one of these characters was like Vegeta, right? And how he always refers to Goku as Kakarot, using his original Saiyan name. Here's the difference. Vegeta is not an Earthling. He wasn't raised on Earth. He still thinks and identifies as a Saiyan because in his formative years, that's all he knew. So of course he's going to address another Saiyan by his Saiyan name. It makes no sense for a mother and a daughter, right? A daughter who just discovered her Kree name, and for, again, a mother who left the Kree, and therefore you would think left her Kree name behind decades ago when she decided to settle down with an Earthman and have a family, to constantly refer to each other by these Kree names, right? It would be like Jonathan Kent referring to Clark Kent. Hi, RJ. Hi. Say hi. It would be like, I guess he wants to sniff the turtle. It would be like Jonathan Kent, right? Always referring to Clark as Kyle. He wouldn't do that because he's human. He's going to refer to Clark by his human name, which is Clark. Just like Clark's Kryptonian dad, I forget the guy's name, sorry, I'm not big on Superman, is always going to refer to Clark as Kyle because he's Kryptonian. That's the name he would use for his son because it comes from his culture. Okay, referring to the cultural name makes sense in Superman when it comes from his dad. It makes sense in DBZ when it's Vegeta to Goku. It does not make sense in a mother-daughter setting for a mother who abandoned her planet and apparently her heritage and a half-human Kree who grew up on Earth who never knew until now. Again, makes no sense. So they're fighting the the funny thing is that the